Blatty has indeed declared the ninth configuration as the true successor to The Exorcist.
Who was that? Cut shot, sir.
For many people, the name William Peter Blatty will forever be linked to The Exorcist, the best-selling 1971 novel penned by Blatty that tells the story of a demonically possessed 11-year-old girl and the two priests who attempt to save her. Blatty would go on to adapt his novel for the 1973 feature film of the same name, which, under the direction of William Friedkin, would enrich itself in the history of cinema as one of the best horror movies ever made, in the process winning Blatty an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay. But Blatty's presence as a filmmaker, though, wouldn't be felt until the release of the ninth configuration, an adaptation of Blatty's own novel that is an intelligently written and brilliantly performed delve into the belief of madness, good, and evil. That also marks the second installment in Blatty's Faith Trilogy, that is bookended by The Exorcist and The Exorcist III: Legion. Although it bombed at the box office, the ninth configuration received strong reviews and to this day has a cult following due to its enduring themes and surreal yet profound filmmaking.
Somebody's coming.
Nice hearing from you, Carlos.
The ninth configuration stars Stacy Keach as Colonel Vince Kane, a psychiatrist at a military home for disturbed servicemen. The home in question is located inside a huge castle, gothic and imposing, like the kind of place that could be used for vampire movies or medieval period pieces. And when one patient says, "Welcome to Transylvania," he isn't kidding. Kane is tasked with determining whether these patients are insane or faking it to stay out of service. Kane institutes an unorthodox method to achieve this. He lets the nuts take over the nut house, resulting in all matter of whacked-out spectacle. Key among Kane's patients is Captain Billy Cutshaw, an astronaut played by Scott Wilson who went mad during an attempted launch to the moon, and he suspects Kane might be masking a madness of his own. The core of the ninth configuration is found between the at times antagonistic conversations between Kane and Cutshaw, with Kane's belief that the world is a good place inhabited by good people constantly countered by Cutshaw's belief, and fear that we are all just hovering in an empty universe without purpose. Blatty presents these ideas with vigorous, intelligent writing, filled with depth and delivered with spirit by an impressive cast of character actors. Zany, pitch-black humor melds seamlessly with drop-dead serious subjects and moments of shocking violence, and a didn't-see-it-coming twist that was groundbreaking at the time set the tone for many psychological thrillers to follow. The road to making the ninth configuration had its own twists and turns. Blatty first released the novel under the original title, Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane, in 1966 as a rambunctious military comedy farce that dealt with heavy themes such as PTSD and the existence of God. During this time, Blatty was known more for his comedy novels and screenplays. This included A Shot in the Dark, the second and best film in the Pink Panther series that starred Peter Sellers as a bumbling French detective inspector Clouseau and was directed by Blake Edwards. Blatty would collaborate with Edwards several more times before he would release his defining work, The Exorcist, in 1971. After the success of The Exorcist novel and film adaptation, Blatty decided to rewrite Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane using the same set of notes with which he wrote the first version. Blatty would state that the characters of Kane and Cutshaw haunted him, which a former wife reasoned at the time was because they were the opposing roles of Blatty's own person. Blatty also wanted to repay and pass on what he had learned from 8 years of his Jesuit education, namely his defense for the existence of God and the exploration into the mystery of goodness and the increasingly mad world. The ninth configuration novel was released in 1978. One of the numerous changes Blatty made from Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane is a direct link to The Exorcist, in the form of Cutshaw's astronaut being the very same character that young Regan warns, "You're gonna die up there," at her actor mother's swanky party at their Georgetown home. Blatty has indeed declared the ninth configuration, both the novel and the film, as the true successor to The Exorcist, as opposed to the dismal Exorcist II: The Heretic, released in 1977, that Blatty was not involved in.
I was possessed by a demon. Oh, it's okay. He's gone.
The Ninth Configuration is also a part of the Faith Trilogy, in which its 3 movies deal with eternal theological and philosophical questions. The Exorcist deals with the question of God by confirming the existence of demons and the power of religious faith to deal with them.
Why this girl doesn't make sense.
I'm telling you that thing upstairs isn't my daughter.
The Ninth Configuration delves into the mystery of goodness by asking that if we are indeed soulless atomic structures who should consistently serve our own selfish needs, why is there love and sacrifice in our world?
You're convinced that God is dead because there's evil in the world.
Correct.
And why don't you think he's alive because of the goodness in the world?
What goodness?
Finally, The Exorcist III: Legion explores the problem of evil in the form of a supernatural detective story.
I've been waiting for you, Lieutenant.
With such heavy theological themes, Blatty struggled to find the funding needed to bring the Ninth Configuration to screen, despite the success of The Exorcist. Blatty sold his home in Miami to finance the film, while an additional suitor would come in the form of PepsiCo Corporation, and with them, an unlikely filming location, Budapest, Hungary, which at the time was under communist rule. While all the interior shots were shot in a Budapest studio, the exterior shots of the military-run insane asylum, that is the film's central location, was shot in Eiscastle in Wiersham, Germany. Cast in the Ninth Configuration were a group of character actors whose notoriety off-screen were just as reputable as their performances on-screen. Originally cast in the role of Cain was Nichols Williamson, the late Scottish actor whose acclaimed performances on stage and screen were matched by his reputation for his violent tantrums and antics on set and on stage. But 2 weeks into rehearsal in Budapest, Blatty felt that Williamson was miscast in the role as an American colonel and replaced him with Stacy Keach. The late Scott Wilson replaced actor Michael Moriarty in the role of Captain Billy Cutshaw. Acclaimed actors like Ed Flanders, Robert Loggia, and Tom Atkins all played supporting roles, yet the 2 actors that gave Blatty the biggest headaches were Jason Miller, who played Father Karras in The Exorcist, and the notorious Joe Spinell. Miller and Spinell's penchant for embracing excess of all facets was felt throughout the production of the Ninth Configuration, with the pair frequenting Budapest's underground black market and local bars with such frequency that Blatty had to post the next day's call sheet at midnight so no one would leave their hotel. The Miller and Spinell double act came to a crescendo one night at the Budapest Hilton, where on the 4th floor discotheque, Miller and Spinell started a fight with the ambassador to Nigeria that led to a brawl. Both men were threatened with expulsion from the country, yet Spinell managed to sweet-talk their way into a tricky situation by sharing anecdotes from his time on The Godfather with the local police. Blatty urged his actors to find their own means of expression in portraying their unlikely written characters, resulting in impressive, spirited performances from an impressive cast of character actors.
See, because acting crazy is always let off steam.
Blatty also would play the music that was scored for the film by Barry Dvorak to his cast and crew prior to filming as a source of inspiration. Blatty's filmmaking style is as unique as his writing, driven by atmosphere and set to its own unique rhythm, often determined by the witty, rich dialogue that is especially felt in the conversations between Cain and Cutshaw. The Ninth Configuration frequently blurs the line between the sane and the insane, and the surreal and the profound. Early scenes of whiplash-inducing comedic farce are just as memorable as a haunting dream sequence in which an astronaut on the moon finds a life-size crucifix. Fueled by Blatty's Catholicism, the Ninth Configuration delves into the darkness that plagues humanity, whether it be violence, corruption, or the supposed absence of God, resulting in a world alone and afloat in a sea of nothingness. Yet combating this is always the presence of the divine, which Blatty presents in the sacrificial acts of good men. Part thriller, part scatterbrain comedy, and part theology lesson, The Ninth Configuration is a film wholly unique and worth seeking.